Do you expect Deshaun to start for the Browns?
I've been trying to tell you guys this for a month because the handwriting has been on the coach's office wall and on especially the owner's office wall for at least a month. It's going to be Deshaun Watson's job to lose. Now, we've had report after report, and Peter Schrager is legit.
Yeah,
He's plugged in.
he is.
NFL now.
He was supposed to be the future, the guy who was going to finally change the story in Cleveland. But right now, in the summer of 2025, Shedeur Sanders isn't even the starter. Think about that for a second. A guy who had the whole country watching him at Colorado. A guy who threw for over 4,000 yards with defenses literally game planning around him every single week. A guy whose name was being thrown around as a top 5 pick not too long ago. And now, he's sitting behind Deshaun Watson, a quarterback who has played in just 19 games over 5 years. A man who tore his ACL, had shoulder surgery, and ripped the same Achilles twice.
Network, now ESPN, said this on Get Up. And they're just going to give Deshaun Watson every chance to win the job, keep the job, and then lose the job. And Peter Schrager says the owner wants him to play mainly because he's going to make $46 million, and the owner's pride is on the line for that. And then we look at Todd Monken. He's 60 years old. He just got his first NFL head coaching job.
This is where we are. And honestly, it says everything about the Cleveland Browns. But here's what most people are missing in this whole conversation. This isn't just a football story. This is about a young man trying to build something real in a place that has a long, painful history of breaking quarterbacks before they ever get the chance to grow. Let's go back a little. When Shedeur Sanders came out of Colorado, the narrative was electric. His father, Deion Sanders, had rebuilt that program from the ground up, and Shedeur was the engine that made it run. He wasn't just playing well, he was playing with a kind of poise that you just don't see from college quarterbacks very often. Reading defenses, throwing with timing, staying calm when the pocket collapsed around him. And it collapsed a lot. He took an ungodly number of hits at Colorado, and he kept getting up every single time. That resilience alone should have told teams something. But the NFL draft is a strange political thing. Teams don't just pick talent, they pick stories they can control. And Shedeur Sanders, son of Prime, son of one of the most outspoken men in football history, was always going to carry extra weight walking into any building. Whether that's fair or not, that's the reality he was dropped into. Cleveland took him in the third round.
NFL head coaching job, and he's going to reach back and go with tried and true in Deshaun Watson, and I think that's going to be a big mistake because tried and true was a long time ago. And Deshaun Watson has not played a game of football for almost 2 years. Even worse, over the last 5 seasons, Deshaun Watson has managed to play only 19 of a possible 85 games. 19 of 85, so he's played over.
A lot of people were shocked. Some were outraged. Some thought it was a blessing in disguise, a chance to develop without the crushing pressure of being the day one starter. But here's the thing about Cleveland. There is no quiet development in Cleveland. Everything is loud there. Everything is a crisis. And the quarterback situation has been a crisis for so long that the city doesn't even flinch anymore. They've been through it. Baker Mayfield, Colt McCoy, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser. The list goes on and on and on. It's almost like a curse at this point, and Shedeur Sanders just walked right into the middle of it. Now enter Deshaun Watson. You can't talk about this situation without being honest about what Deshaun Watson represents to the Cleveland Browns organization. They gave this man a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. $230 million. That number doesn't just represent money. It represents the pride of an ownership group that swung for the fences and missed badly. And when you've made that kind of bet, you don't easily walk away from it. You don't look your fan base in the eye and say, "We were wrong." You find a way to justify it, even when the football reality is screaming at you to move on. And the football reality has been screaming for a while now. In those 19 games Watson has played as a Cleveland Brown, he's thrown 19.
For the last 5 years, 22% of the possible starts. He tore his ACL, he had throwing shoulder surgery, and he has torn the same Achilles twice now. And his last good year that I can find, I have to go back to 2020 at Houston when he did lead the league in passing yards. He was 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, 70% completions, all for a team that somehow went 4-12.
A lot of people were shocked. Some were outraged. Some thought it was a blessing in disguise, a chance to develop without the crushing pressure of being the day one starter. But here's the thing about Cleveland. There is no quiet development in Cleveland. Everything is loud there. Everything is a crisis. And the quarterback situation has been a crisis for so long that the city doesn't even flinch anymore. They've been through it. Baker Mayfield, Colt McCoy, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser. The list goes on and on and on. It's almost like a curse at this point, and Shedeur Sanders just walked right into the middle of it. Now enter Deshaun Watson. You can't talk about this situation without being honest about what Deshaun Watson represents to the Cleveland Browns organization. They gave this man a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. $230 million. That number doesn't just represent money. It represents the pride of an ownership group that swung for the fences and missed badly. And when you've made that kind of bet, you don't easily walk away from it. You don't look your fan base in the eye and say, "We were wrong." You find a way to justify it, even when the football reality is screaming at you to move on. And the football reality has been screaming for a while now. In those 19 games Watson has played as a Cleveland Brown, he's thrown 19. That is the part of this conversation that frustrates so many people who are paying close attention. Cleveland finally did something right. Back-to-back strong drafts, serious work in free agency to fix that offensive line, new pieces around the skill positions. This roster is genuinely better. And instead of letting the young quarterback grow into this new environment, they're handing the keys back to a guy who hasn't played meaningful football in almost 2 years. It's like renovating your whole house and then inviting the same broken water heater back in. But you know what? If you're the kind of person who believes in Shedeur Sanders, you're not panicking. Because the people who actually watch film on him, who watched him in practice, who watched what he did in those final weeks of last season, they know what's there. The talent isn't the question. The development path is the question. And that only gets answered if he gets the time. If the Browns stumble out of the gate with Watson, and given the history, the injuries, and the time away from the game, there is a real chance of that. Shedeur will get his opportunity again. And when he does, the stage will be bigger. The attention will be louder. And everything he's been building quietly in the background will get to come forward. If this kind of storytelling gets you fired up about football the same way it gets us fired up to make it, take a second and subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming, and you don't want to miss it. Because here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders that the critics keep overlooking. He's been doubted before. He was doubted when his dad took over at Colorado. He was doubted when they started scheduling tougher opponents. He was doubted in the draft process. And he keeps showing up, keeps competing, keeps earning respect one rep at a time. That doesn't go away because of a depth chart in May. What happens next in Cleveland is genuinely one of the most interesting storylines in the entire NFL heading into the season. Either Deshaun Watson finds something he lost years ago, which would be a remarkable story in its own right, or the organization eventually has to face the music and hand the future to the future. There's no clean middle ground here. And somewhere in a meeting room in Berea, Ohio, Shedeur Sanders is watching film, learning the new offense, preparing like a starter. Not because they told him to, because that's who he is. His whole life, he's been in situations where the odds were stacked in someone else's favor. And his whole life, he's found a way to make people pay attention to him anyway. Cleveland has broken a lot of quarterbacks, but not every quarterback that walked into that building was built the way Shedeur Sanders is built. Some guys crumble under the weight of the city's expectations and the organization's dysfunction. Some guys let the doubt creep in and never recover. Shedeur Sanders is smiling. And that, more than any depth chart, more than any owner's pride, more than any contract number, that is the thing that should make Cleveland fans feel something real. Because the guy who smiles through the hard part, who keeps showing up when nobody's watching, who raises the energy of a locker room just by stepping onto the field, that guy doesn't stay buried forever. Cleveland's going to find that out one way or another. The only question is how long they're going to make everyone wait.